It's Kouassi at the double as the U's avoid the banana skin and progress to the second round of the FA Cup. It's a magical pod for you, all the magic of the cup with your favourite two magician panellists. Hello then, and a very warm welcome to Under the Happy Stand. My name is Jordan Warland, and joining me, that's right, the magician, not Wes Hoolahand, but it's Jack Swindlehurst. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Another cracking introduction in this season of brilliant introductions.
Shall I read out the one that I discarded?
Oh God.
I basically was going down the angle of like playing a weaker team for the cup competitions, and that you and I is the weaker pod team. But I had a last minute change of heart, and I was like, I can't go with the line that I have scribbled down saying, playing the role of an aging forward desperately trying to prove his worth. It's Jack Swindlehurst.
Yeah, nice and cutting for a first intro in November. No, I like the first one better, but both will do.
It's another home win and another Swindle Jordan two-man pod. Yes, it is the first pod in November, and we've been stitched up, not just because we're talking about the FA Cup game that no one really wanted to talk about, but we don't get to do the live draw of who wins the Cladara competition. I assume that'll be on the preview pod on Thursday, which I think I'm doing with Julian. But yeah, tough on you, Swindle.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to doing that, but there's only space for so many hats with certain things in, and the hat in this pod is the FA Cup hat, so another hat will have to be used on Thursday.
I feel like you said the word hat a lot there.
A lot of times.
We actually had like a message on X saying something along the lines of "It's not a hat. Don't mention being in the hat."
Yeah, I did that very much for the benefit of David.
That's it. David said, "Please no comment in a review pod about being in the hat." And so, what's that? 2 minutes in, and we've mentioned it many times. Good stuff. Excellent. Yeah, it felt like job well done on Saturday. Speaking of job well done, why were you in a banana outfit, Swindle? Did you not see these guys?
No, I'm afraid I didn't. Sorry. No, that you completely threw me there. I thought it was like a banana skin reference.
No. So there was three people in Habin dressed in banana outfits.
Ah, how interesting. I mean, that is FA Cup madness for you.
Would you ever wear a fruit outfit to a football game, Swindle?
Yeah, I mean, you've known me for quite a few years, Jordan, and I am one to make stupid, impulsive, silly decisions regularly. So I feel like a banana outfit would be somewhere on the tame, level of the spectrum, really. But yeah, I would absolutely dress up as a piece of fruit to go to the football.
I was just thinking, it's been a while since I've seen you, Jack, wearing your Woody from Toy Story outfit.
Yeah, that actually sadly died a death.
No.
A recent latitude, not the most recent, but sadly, yeah, it perished. So yeah, that's somewhere in a field in deepest, darkest Suffolk. But yeah, I'm sure there'll be other iterations of onesies for future festivals and FA Cup days out.
What round? What kind of day out would it have to be to get you to dress up for an FA Cup game?
Yeah. I think last 16, I'd be
Nice.
really,
Okay.
I think obviously, yeah, I think, that you're getting down to the business end there. You can kind of smell the success. And I feel like that would be when the cup madness really kicks in. I'd probably, do it earlier. If we beat someone fairly monumental in a round, I think you'd owe it to the team to put on a banana costume.
Um, what about the Virtu? Last 16 of the Virtu? That's in touching distance, mate.
So we're gonna go talk about the kind of the repercussions and implications of the Virtu match
Later in the pod, yeah.
later in the pod. But I was having this conversation yesterday with a friend of the pod about the kind of judgment of going to Wembley. Like if we were to get to Wembley, and I've never been to a Virtu game, am I like a huge hypocrite in our level of fans by going to Wembley? And I feel like I'm not massively outspoken about being against the Virtu per se, and I've called it the Pizza Cup for years and all that stuff. But I was like, God, would I be a bit of a fraud if I went to Wembley to watch this? But it's a day out at Wembley. Surely we've got to be allowed. But I suppose if I did go and we did get to Wembley and I did go, I would dress up as a pizza for sure.
Terrific. The good thing is this is obviously recorded, so we will absolutely refer back to that when we get to the final. Yeah, Saturday then. Did the Chester physio get onto the pitch at all, Swindle?
At the end, it was a very lovely moment. So yeah, Kevin Roberts, great servant to both clubs actually, and yeah, was named on the bench, and the game went on and on. It was about the 89th minute. Came on to an absolutely brilliant ovation from all four corners of the stadium. Chester fans singing his name, and Cambridge fans too. And yeah, it was very much a ceremonial substitution. There wasn't any kind of thought behind it. The game was gone, but it was a really nice touch to get him on, and yeah, it was a really just fantastic kind of testament to a player like that. And yeah, we'll talk about it more in the pod, but absolutely cracking noise from the away fans who made a really good showing on a big day out for them in the cup.
Yeah, it feels a bit like the Miller substitution coming on at Old Trafford. It was
Mm.
one for the occasion, and yeah, good to mention Kev Roberts. We were just talking about getting to knockout trophy finals. We've only
Mm.
done it once, and I believe he led us up the stairs to lift the trophy at the end. I can't remember. I think that's right.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right with that one. So yeah, and they love him. And as you and I spoke on Thursday, I hadn't realized quite how much they kind of bought him in, not expecting him to be a player. Really, I think they'd bought him in for a bit of cover, but he's now been there 7 years, over 180 games, and also has this string to his bow of being, part-time physio. And I imagine that's probably the answer of what's next for Kevin Roberts. So yeah, an absolute stalwart, not just for United but for Chester as well. And in a time where they were very recently reborn, he came in and was, has been quite a major player for them. So yeah, they're loved by both sets of fans.
Slightly smaller attendance on Saturday, as is the case with the FA Cup. Um, for those that missed it, Swindle, what did they miss?
It was a funny one. I mean, it still felt pretty bouncing because of the Chester fans being in the South Stand. That because of how many they brought, it had that kind of old feel to the stadium. We used to have an away fans not there, but it was interesting to see the Chester fans down there. So it still felt relatively loud. I mean, the NRE was very quiet, and a lot of people arrived. I noticed just on Saturday, a lot of people arrived very last minute. There were people coming through the turnstiles at 10 to 3, 5 to 3, just to get there in time for the game. It was quite quiet pre-game in certainly in the fan zone of the NRE. But there's always a bit of a buzz, and I think there was a bit of nervous energy kicking about because it's one of those where we're the team with something to lose going into it, and Chester have absolutely nothing to lose. So they were buzzing, and I think there was a bit of trepidation amongst Cambridge fans just about what could possibly go wrong, that banana skin, and I think even in the first few minutes of the game there was a bit of that kicking about where there was just a couple of shorter passes than there needed to be from United, and Chester just getting a foot on the ball. So it was an interesting start, but United managed the game generally quite well. And we're going to you'll go into more detail, but I think it was a professional performance from Cambridge without it being kind of out of this world.
Yeah, it felt like it was a good job done. Professional, like you say, basically all nailed and all wrapped up before half time. Just on atmosphere, it was an interesting one. Obviously, Saturday was bound to be a bit quieter in the home ends. That seems to be the way in cup competition, especially in the early rounds. But just in general, it's been sort of an odd one for me. The noise and the atmosphere at the Abbey this season, considering how well we've been going at home. Like the home form is terrific, joint best in the league, of course. But considering we've won so many at home, it does feel a little bit sort of mooted around the Abbey. And I wondered if you had picked up on that too.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's, part of it is a kind of hangover from last season, and there was a lot of pretty difficult games to watch throughout the last season and the few seasons before. I think, momentum has not been a strong point of ours in the past few seasons, and kind of putting strings of results together has happened. It's been very few and far between. And I think you and I were speaking earlier, and I think it's a point to be made about how the kind of style of football. You raised this point earlier. The
Yeah,
style
I
of
was going to
football,
ask if you thought the style had an impact.
and it's like there are big long periods of games where it can really be quite quiet and nothing of instant happening, and I think that can kind of kill the collective vibe a little bit if your team's playing in kind of quite a kind of haphazard manner, and they'll kind of kick into action after, not having done much. And I don't want to, be too harsh on the performance level, because I think this season, as you say, it's been professional at home, and we've got a fantastic record. So I think, but I do think there's going to be a bit of, the players are going to need to give the fans a bit of time to get back into the swing of it. And I do think, we endured such crap last season, and it will take a while. But, all that Cambridge United can keep on doing is putting performances in like that at home and keeping the home record going. And then also what will absolutely pick up the fan base is a big win away. And I don't want us to dwell on the point of the away form being, the elephant in the room, but it's something that would definitely just feed into more positivity, more people being on board. I think there was a lot of people who thought we might come back in and kind of find this easier than we're finding it, in League Two as a whole. So I think it is just about kind of bearing with the fans. That it's brilliant when we score, and the noise is there and the reaction is there. It did feel. It's certainly on Saturday in that kind of game. It had a little bit of a pre-season friendly feel to it, and given how straightforward it was, the celebrations probably weren't as kind of wild as they might be, in later rounds or in the league. But I think that'll come with time. And I think the expectation of Saturday's game kind of came into reality quite soon. So I think, it calmed a lot of people's nerves, but maybe killed a little bit of the kind of, the spicy atmosphere that could have been there.
Yeah, I guess you can't go too hard and celebrate too much about scoring against or leading or winning against a team that are two divisions below you and in non-league. So keep it classy. Did you find on Saturday that there was periods of long, not much happening action?
I did, and it's almost a little bit contradictory, because I felt like that was Cambridge United kind of, purposefully managing the game in that manner, tiring Chester out by using the ball and keeping the ball pretty well, actually, certainly in the first half, and then kind of tiring those Chester players out and picking their points to attack. So I think there was a very quiet second half, and I don't think that was just down to Cambridge United, but we'll come on to that in a bit. But I think in the first half, Cambridge United actually, played that very well, and I think deserve a bit of credit for that, because it is this potential banana skin. Getting that early goal was fantastic, and then kind of backing it up and just putting the team ahead of you to bed before half time. Just, there was a kind of job done feel amongst fans, and I imagine amongst the players at half time. And it's a dangerous place to be, but I think actually Cambridge United managed a lower league opposition very, very professionally on Saturday.
So Saturday for me was the start of quite an interesting sort of little mini period.
Mm.
Um, Obviously, win on Saturday, you go through to second round of the cup. Next game is again another opportunity to go through to the next round of a competition. Admittedly not as serious or as big a competition, but an opportunity nonetheless. We then follow that up with a really tough away day, but a chance to respond to the last time we were away from the Cladara and the defeat to Notts County, and then straight after that feels like possibly the toughest test we've had at home, and definitely a real tough test of that great home form that we have with Barnett's visit. So yeah, what are your thoughts on this sort of mini run of 4 games? I know we've just finished one, but an interesting period for you.
Yeah, I think it's the time of year as well, because the momentum around Christmas is a really important thing, and I think we're fast approaching December, and you want to be kind of picking up that form throughout November as well. So it's not just about hitting the form in December. You want to be on good form and kind of carrying it on. So I think it is good, and I think a win's a win. So if we can start stringing them together, in a row, the momentum and the kind of that's been the issue for us. We've had good result, then bad result, then good result, then bad result, and it's just about taking them where you can, and then starting to push on a little bit. And of course, the game on Wednesday is a bit of a different one, but still should be taken as seriously as they want to take it, if they want to try and get some momentum going. As you say, the trip to Salford is going to be a really tough one, but I think you also made a great point. It's about the nature of the response. Just didn't turn up at Notts County, and to go that far on such a great away day and take so many fans, I feel like the fans are actually owed from that day, and hopefully United can go and do something.
It feels like that is the game to respond, because obviously we would have played twice before then, but not free hits. That's not the right term, but not in the league against lesser or unknown competition, shall we say, with Brighton's youth team. It feels like those came at a good time to sort of pause and reset. But yeah, the trip to Salford in many ways is probably one that everyone's been thinking about since the Notts County game.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, we're at a point where it's just these games are getting so important if we're considering ourselves, to be a playoff team. Suddenly, we're only a couple of points adrift, but I think if we just start to take our foot off the gas at a really important time, then it can all come unstuck quite quickly and put way more pressure on the second half of the season. So I think it's important if we consider ourselves one of these better teams to go after teams like that. I mean, you look at Salford's record and it's very strong. But I don't think we should be scared of going somewhere like that. And there's certainly an opportunity for us to come away with a result. If you think about the trip to Grimsby, for example, that was a heartbreaking way to come away with a draw. But we can go to good teams and get results. We know that, and it's about instilling that kind of faith into the players and setting up right and going after the game correctly. I think Neil Harris probably. I don't know that anyone should have said that we did okay for an hour against Notts County. We didn't. We survived, but we shouldn't be trying to do that away from home, regardless of the opposition in this league, I don't think. And obviously, it's not working. So I think they do need to, be a bit braver and have a bit more conviction in these games. So hopefully, Salford is the start of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a good start to that run of four games that we were mentioning. Looping back to Saturday, then the lineup comes in. You and I obviously did the preview pod, and we speculated about what he may or might not do. He did go relatively strong, like he said he was going to do. The big thing that you and I said on the Friday preview pod was we felt he'd go back to a 4-2-3-1, which it looked like he did. Let's talk about those changes then and how they performed. Starting at the back, Liam Bennett comes in at right back. How did you rate his afternoon? I guess it's maybe an afternoon to get a little bit easily carried away with his attacking performance because he's going up against a weaker opposition and they weren't particularly good at the back, were they? So perhaps maybe looked a little bit better than maybe you would naturally think. But I think it's fair to say we've missed his attacking outlet at least.
Yeah, 100%. I would say he played really well. I actually thought he was our man of the match. I think he was really kind of assured, and I don't, he can't help the level of the opposition we're playing. So he's gone out there and put in his best performance, and he's come out very well. There was Purrington on the other side who certainly didn't have anywhere near as much of a good game. So yeah, Bennett was up and down very well. He actually defended very well yesterday as well because anything that Chester had was down their right hand side, certainly not down ours. So Bennett, was working very well down that side and putting a lot of work and seems very comfortable next to Michael Morrison as well. So as you say, it's lower league opposition, but it's got to be great for his confidence and certainly be interesting to see if there is room for Liam Bennett in a more advanced role. There's been conversations back and forth for the times that Harris has been here about whether he's keen on Liam Bennett and whether he's the type of player that he wants to feature, but he respects him enough to be giving him chances and using him in some respects. So yeah, I think it would be great to kind of build his career a bit more, and he's a beneficial player for us. It's not a case of us feeling like we're obliged to do that. I think it's worthwhile, and certainly the forward aspect to his game is really good. I have to say, he was, you could tell the kind of gulfing class is the wrong word, against a lesser team. He really thrived and was also like, I think there was a little bit of swagger about him, like he was going up for headers. He felt you could see a man who felt comfortable on the pitch there and was enjoying himself out there and wasn't too much defending to do, but when required, he did it really well. So yeah, I think he was a really good one to bring in, and it was the right time to do it.
I actually think of the four changes that Harris made for Saturday, well, the starting changes at least. I actually want them all to play Wednesday night against Brighton. I want them to continue because I want to see that sort of little run in the side and seeing if it's more than just like playing at the lower opposition. So I hope Bennett keeps his place for Wednesday night. I think it was important for him to play well considering the nightmare that he had at Barnet. And hopefully if he plays against the Brighton team on Wednesday, he can sort of show that he can do it consistently and maybe stake a claim for starting right back, because I'm very much in the camp of those that are a little bit done with Gibbons at the moment. I want to see something different there. So yeah, good afternoon for Liam Bennett. Interesting, you said you thought it was man of the match rather than Kouassi, but we'll loop back to that. The other change, Corey Smith coming in at central midfield. I kind of didn't think too I didn't think too much before the game that would happen, but I guess it makes sense for him to get some minutes.
Yeah, we looked kind of very professional in the middle of the park without, setting the world on fire. I think it was players who played at a higher level thriving against a lower team and connecting the dots. I think there was a lot of good long ball play yesterday, but when we held on to the ball, which we did really well, a lot of that was down to that central area, and I think that was absolutely fine. I don't think it was the game that was going to be kind of won in that middle of the park bit, really. I think there was a lot of kind of wide play yesterday, and as I say, long balls were being used quite well. But when they were called upon, they just absolutely bossed it, and there was very funny. One of their, Ewan Murray was the Welsh player that they recommended as one of their, standout players.
Yeah, I wanted
And
to ask you about him because in your notes, so you typed up some notes for this pod. What did you say? You said like the best short person that you've seen play football, and
yeah,
I thought that's such an insult on your pal Matt Caspel.
yes, no, that's very true. Good. That was a good one. That was a good one.
Matt
Yeah,
is short. Matt is short.
Matt is
That's the
short,
joke,
if any.
everyone.
Yeah, just for everyone who's listening.
Not like me.
Um,
I'm average height.
I think me and you are the same height. So yeah, I think he was all right, but it was more a bit of a tongue in cheek, comment because they said every fan base asks who he is after they play him because of how good he was, and he was fine. But I think it was a sign of the level up. I think in lower league you can sometimes get away with being a bit smaller and then still thriving. And I think he struggled yesterday, but he put in a good performance. Actually, there's a few good touches, and you can see why they like him. I'm a little surprised why they call him Welsh Perlo, but you got to give him to him. And yeah, bright future for him for sure.
With Corey Smith playing, I think I'm right in saying that is now bingo. For the card is done for all possible iterations of playing our four central midfielders together. Um, how did you rate seeing Smith and Ball playing together? Because it felt like Ball was maybe coming a bit further forward compared to how he plays, with Ruddock and others.
Yeah, I think Corey Smith gives that security that maybe the others don't in there. That means Ball can have a bit of a freer role. We can't just keep on repeating ourselves. It's only a lower league team. You play the team that's in front of you, and I think it's really good to have these opportunities to do that. And I think Corey Smith, as I said, kind of gives that security so that Ball can go further forward, and it worked. He was getting further forward even in the second half, and I think that opens up doors for slightly more creativity for us. I think sometimes we've been guilty of relying on the same avenues for goals, and if we can start making that middle part of the pitch and pushing on a bit more of a kind of use, it would be great to see that. Because yeah, I think it's fantastic kind of practice for the league for the game on Saturday, and I think they came through it really cleverly, actually. I think, and there's got to be a lot of people thinking the competition for places are now healthy. We're going to have to be setting up a bit different with our limited forward options, but Corey Smith being back and being fit is a massive benefit, and I think it also influenced Don Ball. But that we're going to be chopping and changing that still. I don't think anyone stakes their claim for being the weekly starters necessarily yet.
You mentioned limited forwards. How was Ben Knight's afternoon for you? Do you think he did enough to be pushing for a start? It feels like maybe a return now to the 4-2-3-1 until at least a couple of weeks and Apre being back to full fitness.
I don't like like repeatedly digging players out, but I didn't really think I saw enough for him. I kind of expected this to be, we've heard about the hype and the levels that he trains at and that he could potentially reach, and I don't think he's reached him yet, and I don't think he kind of offered enough on Saturday. I think actually I don't want to be too harsh. There's a couple of times where he got in and he was connecting well with with Liam Bennett, but there was a couple of times where Brophy came out to get the ball from Ben Knight's side when Ben Knight was a little bit kind of caught on his toes, and Kouassi was doing a lot of work out there too, which is good. But also, if you're the lone forward, you kind of want to be the lone forward. So I think we still need to see more from Ben Knight. And I think I agree with what you said earlier in the program. I think it would be really useful if we could get Ben Knight starting on Wednesday in this game to try and give him a few more minutes and get his confidence up. And he's clearly he's clearly happy to be here. There's been some questions about Ben Knight's attitude. You don't know how much to read into on message boards or fan run podcasts. But I think I think it's good. He looks like he's kind of gelling with the players as well. Like when they were celebrating, he's right in there with them. There's more talking. I think there was a couple of games where Ben Knight at home seemed like a bit of a lost figure and seemed a little bit like he was kind of feeling cut adrift and just not connecting with the team. And I didn't get that on Saturday. I just wish there'd been a bit more from him and a bit more in an attacking sense, because it felt like they were there for the taking, and he didn't offer too much in that final third.
Yeah, it felt like an afternoon for him to show that he's a cut above. It feels like a long time since Cheltenham on the opening day and that really impressive debut. So I'm going to put him in the bracket of being one of those that needs a run of games, which hopefully maybe he'll get now in this in this situation with available strikers and so forth. The other person who came back in for a start, Mr. Brophy, Mr. Goal involvement, James Brophy. That's two more assists and one more goal for the numbers this season if you're tracking them. My question though, Swindle, was did the involvements in the goal kind of mask what was a little bit of a not a bad afternoon or a crap afternoon, but did it kind of sort of gloss over what was not the best performance from Brophy? I seem to remember a lot of bad passes, a lot of giving the ball away. Maybe I'm being too harsh.
I know what you mean. I think James Brophy has a generally quite high level of performance. Actually, he puts shifts in in games where people don't always necessarily do. So I think it's quite important to not dig him out too much. But yeah, I think there were a few errant passes, and I think in games like Saturdays you can be found guilty of getting a little bit comfortable in the game. When you're playing against an opposition. I don't want to repeat this too many times, but Chester really didn't offer very much on the day, which meant kind of an easy day out for Cambridge United. And I think you can kind of, especially when you're a player who plays so many minutes like him, you can probably think, I've got a bit of a free day here. But he's contributed massively to the goals. His set piece deliveries are getting really good. It's just so useful for us and a real danger. And then absolutely cracking long ball as well. So I think that whilst it wasn't his best game, I don't think it's anything to worry about. And the stats don't lie.
Let's touch on the match action then. It felt like the kind of game where an early goal was needed. We got exactly that. 1-0 up after 10, 11 minutes or so? What's your take on the goal?
I think it's a brilliant cross from James.
I was going to say, because I've watched it back several times and I'm still not sure how it's gone in. It feels own goal like to me, really.
But it's definitely Kouassi's goal, but it does feel like no one's got a clue what's happened really. Kouassi didn't even really understand whether he needed to celebrate or not. But what we did do is start that game kind of in a high octane manner, really pushing on, not giving Chester time to settle. A couple of promising looking moves already before that. Then we won that free kick out there, and Brophy just put it into exactly the right position. And in another week, Kouassi will power in a header. It's just the fact that this time it dropped somewhere near his foot or knee and went in. But perfect place for the cross to go. So brilliant start, and it really just set the tone. We were just talking, in the NRE about a really promising start, and everyone already, it sounds a little bit arrogant, but everyone was like, we just need a goal here, because you see these games where you go out against lower league opposition and you spank them for 30 minutes, but you can't get a goal, and suddenly then they come back into the game. So it's really important to go for the jugular in games like this, and it just came at the right time to kind of calm any nerves that we're kicking about.
Another set piece goal. I'm losing count of these now. But we speculated, you and I, on the preview that could be a benefit for us. Maybe a little bit more professional, full-time training, have the ability to maybe work on a few more things, plus their weaknesses at the back. But dearie me, that was pretty weak. So 1-0 up and looking good for the lead, but it wasn't exactly all one-way traffic, was it? It felt like Chester weren't out of it. Memory is a little bit faint, but I seem to remember there was a good opportunity for them at the back post at 1-0 for them to maybe get back into it.
Yeah, so the thing that Chester did quite well yesterday was set up to catch Cambridge on the break. That was always going to be how they were going to set up and use both of those wings to do it. And as I say, the right wing was certainly more fruitful for them than the left wing. And they did that really well. They actually put a really good passing move together off a Cambridge attack, and then yeah, Ben Purrington had kind of over committed a little bit opened up the right hand side for them, took it to the byline and cut it across, ricocheted about a bit, and then Geezer at the back post goes for the shot. It goes well wide, and Liam Bennett is diving in there to put a block in. And there's faint shouts for a penalty from the Chester. Well, they weren't very faint; they were quite loud shouts from the Chester fans and players. Referee immediately waved it away. It would be an incredibly harsh penalty. It's one of those where a player is diving into block, and then the player gets the shot away. There's a coming together, but I don't think we'd be. Well, of course, we'd be asking for a penalty. I don't think we could feel too good about getting it if we did. But yeah, I think that was where they offered, and there was a few other times. Kel Watts went in the book for a really quite savage tackle, actually, and it was again Purrington slightly out of position, and the guy really good pace on that right hand side. Running down the wing, and then Kel Watts absolutely wiped him out. There was shouts for off. And the ref, immediately reached for a yellow, but that really could have upset the apple cart if we'd gone down to 10 at 1-0, because then I think Chester would have really gone for it. But I think the right decision was yellow card, and it was just a bit of a warning shot. And I think that probably did shake up United and make them realise, we're in a game here and we need to put these to bed.
Much to say about Cambridge United's second goal, but should we start by saying it maybe came at the perfect time because, as you were just saying, Chester were getting into the game. Felt like a good time to sort of put our noses further out in front and make the job even harder for Chester.
Yeah, actually, it did really come at a good time. And I think it came a little bit out of the blue as well, because I think we were just starting to get that kind of pre-half-time nerves where you're 10 minutes out, the team are just coming into it a little bit. And, the next goal's massively important, all about this momentum, and going in with a 1-0 lead at half-time would have been, the nerves would have still been jangling. So yeah, it came at a really, really important time, and I think in a really, really good manner.
Go on then. Let's get your opinions on Kouassi's second goal then. Ridiculous little angle to take a shot from. Is it a terrific finish because it's proper nestled into the side netting, or is it just bad form from the goalkeeper there? Should he be keeping that out?
It's really hard, isn't it? And I think in the first instance we rewind all the way and we say it's actually Michael Morrison that wins the ball back really strongly when Chester are on an attack. Breaks to James Brophy, who plays a lovely kind of weighted, not a half volley, but it bounced and then he, pinged it over the top, caught the defender's head, but Kouassi was onto it and then does really well. I think Kouassi, he's got a bit of pace about him and he took it, purposely wide. I think there was probably part of him who was looking to square it to Kai in the instance where he went towards the byline. And then I think as a goalkeeper, you make a decision, don't you? You're kind of like, I'm either going to stay here or I'm going to anticipate that the ball's coming across the 6-yard box. Unfortunately, the keeper's stayed and it's still gone in that corner, but it's a great finish and he's hit it low and hard as Kouassi. And I think when you've made that decision as a striker to go for it, he's done exactly the right thing, to just, drive it low. And also it's a confidence thing. He's got his first goal there and he wants to get more. He wants to help carry this team because he's carrying a lot on his shoulders at the moment with injuries to the other forwards. So I think it was quite important for him to be a bit selfish and to do that and go for it. And, it worked. 2-0. He was on a hat trick. So yeah, well done, Kouassi. But yeah, good shout outs to Morrow and to James Brophy as well. It was a nice goal to watch, and yeah, it didn't look as impressive from the NRE as it did from the when I watched it rewatched it on the highlights, because yeah, that really is quite a tight angle. But as I say, smashed it low, and yeah, 2-0.
Something to do with the terrible view in the NRE there, mate. But we'll move on. I mean, is it bad for me to say that? I don't know. I don't think he meant it. I think he was probably trying to pick out a pass and actually has ended up smashing it really well into the far corner.
I think he meant it. I'm gonna
Why
in I was gonna say the strikers union, but no, I think he's meant it, and yeah, regardless, it's a good finish and just relieve that tension. Like you said, it was a really important time for it to happen, and everyone kind of breathed a collective sigh of relief.
I think you make a really valid point about, it's his time to sort of stand up and, lead the line. This change in formation because of the lack of options, the Lavery injury, Appere still not back, although will feature on Wednesday, we're told. His home form is terrific. I'm struggling to think of a Kouassi away goal, but he seems to love playing at the Cladara. How big could he be for us this side of Christmas? Because, you know, I don't want to think too much about it, but he might not be here the other side of Christmas.
No, exactly though. You want to get the most out of a player like that, and he's going to be absolutely integral because the talks of Apre coming back, and of course we probably won't see Lavery, again this year, or we may do it like right at the end. But yeah, we need to get some momentum for him, and as I say, he's carrying a lot on those shoulders. So I think it's important that people get around him and encourage him to be the one to do it. I think it's really good that he got the two on Saturday, and as you say, he loves playing at the Clodara, and I don't know if it's because our away form's been so bad, it's not really a surprise that you can not remember a goal. He's maybe struggled a bit generally away from home for us. There's been a couple of games where, incidents have happened at the wrong ends where he's, had a couple of glaring misses and give away a penalty. And I think what is good, you just want to get behind a player like this who's going to be so important to us now. And Saturday was the perfect thing. And I think, the fans really were behind him on Saturday. So, yeah, perfect kind of tonic ahead of, a busy period of games.
Dare I say his lack of away goals might be a symptom of just the approach that we're applying to
Yeah.
away games. Time for that to change, Neil Harris. Time for that to
Mm.
change. But yeah, really, really enjoying watching him play. It's nice to have a name in that category of someone who you sign on loan or just sign in general, and you're underwhelmed with the signing, but they turn around to sort of actually silence those critics because I think we were all raised eyebrows when he joined, when he came in on loan and looked at the lack of football, lack of goals. But yeah, slowly and assuredly proving us all rather wrong.
Yeah, 100%. And he's a very likable player because he always puts a shift in. He puts himself about. He's a real handful. And we've seen this at home where he does make people's lives really difficult. He's had good performances at home where he hasn't necessarily scored in. So I think it's great to have a player like that who is a handful. It's such a shame that Lavery's out because actually I think they complemented each other really well and they worked together very well. But he's carrying the mantle forward now and will link up with Apare when the time's right. So yeah, just got to be all pro Killian and yeah, keep the faith.
Goal scorer, turn provider for Cambridge's third. If you're calling into his question whether he should have passed for the second goal, we think we mentioned Kaika. I think there was another body bombing into the area, possibly Knight. Silence those doubts on the third goal with some terrific hold up play and the opposite of being selfish to lay it off to Brophy. Talk me through your thoughts on the third goal.
Yeah, I was honestly shocked to see him not shoot because the ball over from Kel Watts is quite good. Maybe less confident on his left foot, Kouassi, but yeah, brilliant ball over from Kel Watts. We really exploited their kind of defensive frailties, and then yeah, Kouassi picked it up brilliantly. And as you say, just brilliant hold up play, showed a bit of strength, and then the wherewithal to ping it across the box and put it on a plate for Brophy, who he likes to find the corners with his finish. Sometimes it fills me with a bit of dread that it's going to be the James Brophy of old. But yeah, he really took the goal well, and that was the game put to bed.
Yeah, it was a great finish, wasn't it? Absolutely great finish. Love scoring in this competition against lower teams. It's a niche, but yeah, happy to have it. That's kind of where the match action part of the running order runs a little bit thin, Swindle, because there's not an awful lot in the second half to talk about. I think McConnell had a good chance. Ball pulled one wide, which I think you said earlier in the show. Kachunga had one stopped on the line, but not a lot of chances. What's your take on the second half? Are you glass half full or glass half empty on the 45 minutes that you saw?
Yeah, I'm not too worried about it. I think it was, a bit of victim of circumstance. You look at it, and there was, nine changes in all. Bearing in mind four of them came at the same time for Cambridge, but it was an incredibly bitty game. There were quite a few players going down injured, a lot of fouls, and I think the game. Chester didn't come out and go for it in the second half, and I think Cambridge United will have been expecting a response, and that was partly why the game fell so flat because Chester really offered very, very little, and then yeah, United just kind of absorbed that and sucked it up. And like you say, I think Don Ball got forward well. His volley, as I watched on the highlights, was described as just wide. I think that's being a little bit kind. I think there was never any chance of that going in. Like you say, McConnell impressed when he came on, as did George Hoddle. Looked good as well. So shame not to see McConnell get on the score line, but on the score sheet. Sorry, but there'll be time for that, and hopefully we see them both on Wednesday again. But yeah, just a professional job from United. It felt flat because it was flat, but
Any
we
con
got.
any concern from you that we didn't get another goal, didn't add to the tally?
Well, yeah, it would have been good, and I think the opportunities were there. I don't think we really wanted it enough. I think you really need to go for it, and I wonder if there is a bit of kind of self-preservation in that. There's a lot of players out there who've played a lot of football, and there's a few players on the sidelines with injuries, and I wonder if some people were kind of thinking, thinking ahead to the games that are coming because there didn't seem much caution being thrown to the wind, and yeah, the changes were generally good. I think Kachunga looked off it again, but hopefully, he'll come good when we need him. But yeah, it was much of a non-event, but yeah, really good from United to get the job done, and yeah, Eastwood made the most of an opportunity to impress the cameras with an unnecessary tip round the post. But yeah, yeah, absolutely fine, and the game was done.
The game was done. Well, that is us done on our FA Cup chat, apart from one important question. We can't talk about an FA Cup win without talking about who we would like as a reward in the next round. I guess it's a no-brainer to say an easy team at home with
Yeah.
the third round in touch and distance. Any banter fixtures there for you, or any fixture that you would like to entertain for any reason?
I mean, if Chelmsford City either way would be massive banner fixture because Lyle Taylor would return,
Hmm.
and that could be absolutely insane. He's all over the TV. He actually got a guy sent off in the game they played at the weekend. Kind of angered the guy so much by pulling his shirt and arm that the guy then lashed out at the next person who came up against him and kicked him straight red. So yeah, Lyle Taylor's shithousery continues into Essex.
Talking of strikers and red cards, did you notice who picked up their second red whilst out on loan?
Yeah, Ryan Loft is having an all-timer of a shit time at the moment, and yeah, it doesn't look to be getting any better for him. So yeah,
It's quite the stat, right?
yeah,
More red cards than league goals on your loan.
yeah, it's not good, and you've got to feel for him. He's not being good enough for us, and it doesn't appear like he's being good enough for someone else. It feels like a pretty damning reflection on him, and one that might come back to bite him. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but hopefully, um, he can turn it around just for his own kind of sanity, really. But yeah, at the moment he's just so far off it, and it's just going terribly.
Yeah, let's hope there's no return clause. They can send him
Yeah, I know.
back. Speaking of former Cambridge United strikers, Mr. Scott Rendell uh, bagged a brace for Tottenham on Saturday. They lost 6-3 though, so no reunion with Rendell in the second round, which is a shame. Who are we having then? Who are we having? Are we going for Buxton or are we going
I
for
think
Slough?
Buxton at home, Buxton or Slough at home. I think yeah, let's go for that. Let's do another job like we did on Saturday, and then get a nice juicy third round draw.
Good stuff. Right, before we wrap up, let's talk about the second cup competition that we've got in front of us. Back at the Kadara Wednesday, not Tuesday, which is slightly unusual, but it's our final group game of the Virtu. At home to the Brighton youth team that are in our group. As it stands, Swindle, we're third in the table. A win on Wednesday night, though, would see us qualify for the next round. How are you feeling about Wednesday night? Like, how would you approach it? Would you stick with the mindset that Neil Harris has had with this competition, which is lots of changes and getting minutes into people, or does the fact that you qualify with a win change your thinking at all?
It's one of those. So obviously we've spoken previously on this podcast and today about boycotting this in inverted commas. But like I can understand the benefit of us going through. I'm just slightly wary that we don't want to pick up injuries in places that we're already light in. I think that's the one thing. But I think you have to field a team, and I think we should go for it. And as you said yesterday, I think all four of the players who came in to the starting lineup on Saturday. I'd like to see them play again. I think for different reasons. I think we need more for Ben Knight. I think Corey Smith can then pair up with maybe some younger players as well, carry a bit of responsibility in there, and Liam Bennett just carry on that momentum and yeah, keep himself going. So yeah, I think do that and then bring in the likes of maybe McConnell and a few younger players, and then yeah, maybe give Morrow a rest. But yeah, generally I think make a few changes, but keep the guys from Saturday. Sorry.
So I'm looking at the Southern Group H table as we speak. It's not as it's good news in the sense that obviously the win would see us qualify, but we could still go through, I believe, if we draw but win the penalty shootout because we've got the better goal difference compared to Barnet. How would your nerves be going into a penalty shootout, knowing that to win that puts you into the knockouts of the Virtu?
My nerves would be fine.
They'd be
Jordan.
fine. Yeah. It's right. Let's have a quick look then. What about predictions? Oh no. Yeah, what about predictions first?
I feel like there's more attention around this than there has been in the whole previous years that it's run this season. Generally, Luton brought fans. I think this tournament has started to become a bit more recognised by people. There's still people, banging that boycott drum, but yeah, it's more recognised. So I think it would be nice for us to get through. I think if we could, put a run together and blood some younger players who could become important later in the season as well. It's not just about a trip to Wembley. If there's benefits to this tournament, then it's getting people who haven't played too much minutes. So I think we're going to 2-1 win. We go through, get to Wembley, and we bring home the Virtu.
And you dress up as a pizza, remember?
Oh yeah.
It was very much a Swindle mad statement from the top of the pod. Last question on Wednesday night. You are famously a man who backed Tollage from the start. I feel like you've been justified this year with the big money move and the goals that he's been scoring. Any names in that Brighton team that you've got your eye on as being the future Tollage for you?
Yeah, I really like the look of...
We've done Virtu research. This is big stuff.
Yeah, I really like the look of Alvarez. He's number 52 for Brighton under 21s.
I don't know. I hate him because I don't like squad numbers that are ridiculous, and 52.
Oh, so all 52's, of their squad numbers 52
is too high for me.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Right, Swindle. Best of luck for Wednesday, mate. But we've feels like a good place to pause it for now. Before we go, a big thank you as always to our sponsors, the Old Spring. Do check them out. There's a whole host of UTAS and Cambridge United fan discounts that you can get. A final reminder, this pod at least, because it will run all season, to join the coconut tier. It's going to be mentioned a lot on the preview pod on Friday if we do that prize draw, just how great the benefit it is to be in the coconut tier. So yeah, think about it. Think about parting ways with that meagre £5 a month. Swindle, it's been a pleasure, mate.
Yeah, you too, mate. Thanks for having me.
We'll see you all again on Friday.